the philosophy of the absolute truth, the Lord, and the tears from his eyes are not different. Just as drops of perspiration which fell from the toe of the Lord became the sacred Ganges, so teardrops from the transcendental eyes of the Lord became Bindu Sarovara. Both are transcendental entities and are worshipped by great sages and scholars. The water of Bindu Sarovara is described here as Shivamrita Jala. Shiva means curing. Anyone who drinks the water of Bindu Sarovara is cured of all material diseases. Similarly, anyone who takes his bath in Ganges also is relieved of all material disease. These claims are accepted by great scholars and authorities and are still being acted upon, even in this fallen age of Kali. Well, that's good news to know. And next time we go to India, definitely bathe in the Ganges because it'll cure all material diseases. Haribol. Text 40. The shore of the lake was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in fruits and flowers of all seasons, that afforded shelter to pious animals and birds, which uttered various cries. It was adorned by the beauty of groves of forest trees. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, says, Canto 3, Chapter 21, Text 41. It is stated here that Bindu Saravana was surrounded by pious trees and birds. As there are different classes of men in human society, some pious and some virtuous and some impious and sinful, so also among trees and birds there are the pious and the impious. Trees which do not bear nice fruit or flowers are considered impious, and birds which are very nasty, such as crows, are considered impious. In the land surrounding Bindu Sarovara, there was not a single impious bird or tree. Every tree bore fruits and flowers, and every bird sang the glories of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so now we know that there are birds that can also chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That is a very auspicious thing to know. Okay, text 41. The area resounded with the notes of overjoyed birds, intoxicated bees wandered there, intoxicated peacocks proudly danced, and merry cuckoos called one another. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Canto 3, Chapter 21, Text 41. The beauty of the pleasant sounds heard in the area surrounding the lake, Bindu Sarovara, is described. After drinking honey, the black bees became maddened and they hummed in intoxication. Merry peacocks danced just like actors and actresses. And merry cuckoos called their mates very nicely. Text 42 and 43. Lake Bindu Sarovara was adorned with flowering trees such as Kadamba, Champaka, Ashoka, Karanja, Bakula, Asana, Kunda, Mandara, Kutaja, and young mango trees. The air was filled with the pleasing notes of Karandava ducks, plavas, swans, ospreys, wild waterfowl, cranes, chakravakas, and chakoras. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. These are text 40, Canto 3, chapter 21, text 42, 43. For most of the trees, flowers, fruits, and birds mentioned here as surrounding Bindu Sarovara Lake, English synonyms cannot be found. In other words, you can't find English words to explain so many different types of trees, flowers, fruits, and birds. All the trees mentioned are very pious in that they produce a nice aromatic flower, such as Champaka, Kadamba, and Bakura. The sweet sounds of the fowl, meaning the water birds, and cranes, again, type of bird, made the surrounding area as pleasant as possible and created a very suitable spiritual atmosphere. Okay, so Canto 3, Chapter 21, text 44. Its shores abounded with deer, boars, porcupines, gavayas, elephants, baboons, lions, monkeys, mongooses, and musk deer. Musk deer, purport by Srila Prabhupada, musk deer are not found in every forest, but only in places like Bindusaravara. They are always intoxicated by the aroma of musk secreted from their navels. Gavayas, the species of cow mentioned herein, bear a bunch of hair at the end of their tails. This bunch of hair is used in temple worship to fan the deities. Gavayas are sometimes called chamaris, and they are considered very sacred. In India, there are still gypsies or forest mercantile people who flourish by trading kasturi or musk and the bunches of hair from the chamaris. These are always in great demand for the higher classes of Hindu population, and such business still goes on in large cities and villages in India. Okay, so, well, in every temple you have to have some uh, uh, of these things, which are blessed. The chamaris, they're always in great demand for the higher classes of Hindu population. Such business still goes on in large cities and villages in India. So, Gavayas is an animal. The species of cow mentioned herein bear a bunch of hair at the end of their tails. This bunch of hair is used in temple worship to fan the deities. Gavayas are sometimes called chamaris, and they are considered very sacred. In India, there are still gypsies or foreign mercantile people who flourish by trading kasturi or musk and the bunches of hair from the chamaris. These are always in great demand for the higher classes of Hindu population, and such business still goes on in large cities and villages in India. Okay, so we have these chamaris or chamaris to fan the deities during worship of the Lord. Okay, next. Text, Canto 3, Chapter 21, text 45 to 47. Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swayambhuva Manu, saw the sage sitting in his hermitage, having just propitiated the sacrificed fire by pouring oblations into it. His body shone most brilliantly, though he had engaged in austere penance for a long time. He was not emaciated, for the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance on him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moonlight words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large, like petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhuva approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem. Mm-hmm. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here are some descriptions of a brahmachari yogi. In the morning, the first duty of a brahmachari seeking spiritual elevation is hutasana, to offer sacrificial oblation to the Supreme Lord. So, an oblation is something that it's like putting uh, like wood into the fire. Those engaged in the brahmacharya cannot sleep until 7 or 9 o'clock in the morning. They must rise early in the morning, at least 1.5 hours before the sunrise, and offer oblations, or in this age, they must chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As referred to by Lord Chaitanya, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. There is no other alternative, and no other alternative in this age to chanting the holy name of the Lord. The brahmachari must rise early in the morning, and after placing himself, should chant the holy name of the Lord. From the very features of the sage, it appeared that he had undergone great austerities. That is the sign of one observing brahmacharya, the vow of celibacy. If one lives otherwise, it would be manifest in the lust visible in his face and body. Very significant point here, that if one lives otherwise than a brahmachari is practicing celibacy, it will be manifest in the lust visible in his face and body. The word vidyo tamananam indicates that the brahmachari feature showed on his body. That is the certificate that one has undergone great austerity in yoga. A drunkard or smoker or sex monger can never be eligible to practice yoga. Generally, yogas look very skinny because of their not being comfortably situated. But Kardama Muni was not emaciated, for he had seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Here the word stig, da Bhagavalokanat, means that he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Lord face to face. He looked healthy because he had directly received the nectarian sound vibrations from the lotus lips of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, one who hears the transcendental vibration of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, also improves his health. We have actually seen that many brahmacharis and grihastas connected with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness have improved in health, and a luster has come to their faces. It is essential that a brahmachari engaged in spiritual advancement look very healthy and lustrous. The comparison of the sage to an unpolished gem is very appropriate. Even if the gem just taken from a mine looks unpolished, the luster of the gem cannot be stopped. Similarly, Although Kardama was not properly dressed and his body was not properly cleansed, his overall appearance was gem-like. Text 48. Seeing that the monarch had come to his hermitage and was bowing before him, the sage greeted him with benediction and received him with due honor. Emperor Swayambhuva not only approached the cottage of dried leaves possessed by the hermit Kardama, but he also offered respectful obeisances unto him. Similarly, it was the duty of the hermit to offer blessings to kings who used to approach his hermitage in the jungle. Text 49. After receiving the sage's attention, the king sat down and was silent. Recalling the instructions of the Lord, Kardama then spoke to the king as follows, delighting him with his sweet accents. Text 50. The tour you have undertaken, O Lord, is surely intended to protect the virtuous and kill the demons, since you embody the protecting energy of Sri Hari. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It appears from many Vedic literatures, especially histories like Srimad Bhagavatam and the Puranas, that the pious kings of old used to tour their kingdoms in order to give protection to the pious citizens and to chastise or kill the impious. Sometimes they used to kill animals in the forest to practice the killing art, because without such practice, they would not be able to kill the undesirable elements. Kshatriyas are allowed to commit violence in that way because violence for a good purpose is a part of their duty. Here, two terms are clearly mentioned. Vadaya, for the purpose of killing, and asatam, those who are undesirable. The protecting energy of the king is supposed to be the energy of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord says, Paritranaya sadunam vinasaya chatuskritam. The Lord descends to give protection to the pious and to kill the demons. The potency, therefore, to give protection to the pious and kill the demons or undesirable is directly in an energy from the Supreme Lord, and the king or the chief executive of the state is supposed to possess such energy. In this age, it is very difficult to find such a head of state who is expert in killing the undesirables. Modern heads of state sit very nicely in their palaces and try, without reason, to kill innocent persons. Oh my God. Why would they want to kill innocent persons? Text 51. You assume, when necessary, the part of the sun god, the moon god, Agni, the god of fire, Indra, the lord of paradise, Vayu, the wind god, Yama, the god of punishment, Dharma, the god of piety, and Varuna, the god of presiding over the world. All obeisances to you, who are none other than Lord Vishnu. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In other words, Lord Vishnu can assume the form of Agni, Indra, Vayu, Yama, and in different forms. Okay, so purport. Since the sage Kardama was a Brahmana and Swayambhuva was a Kshatriya, the sage was not supposed to offer obeisances to the king because socially his position was greater than the king's. But he offered his obeisances to Swayambhu Manu because, as Manu, king and emperor, he was the representative of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always worshipable, regardless of whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or a Shudra. As the representative of the Supreme Lord, the king deserved respectful obeisances. Haribol. Text 52 to 54. And it says, if you did not mount your victorious jeweled chariot, whose mere presence threatens culprits, if you did not produce fierce sounds by the twanging of your bow, and if you did not roam about the world like the brilliant sun, leading a huge army whose trampling feet caused the globe of the earth to tremble, then all the moral laws governing the varnas and ashramas created by the Lord himself would be broken by the rogues and rascals. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta. So this is Canto 3, Chapter 21, text 52 to 54. It is the duty of a responsible king to protect the social and spiritual orders in human society. The spiritual orders are divided into 4 ashramas: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. And the spiritual orders are divided into 4 ashramas: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. And the social orders, according to work and qualification, are made up of the brahmanas, kshatriyas, the vaishyas, and the sudras. These social orders, according to different grades of work and qualification, are described in Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, for want of proper protection by responsible kings, the system of social and spiritual orders has now become a hereditary caste system. But this is not the actual system. Human society means that society which is making progress towards spiritual realization. The most advanced human society was known as Arya. Arya refers to those who are advancing. So the question is, which society is advancing? Advancement does not mean creating material necessities unnecessarily and thus wasting human energy in aggravation over so-called material comforts. Real advancement is advancement towards spiritual realization, and the community which acted toward this end was known as the Aryan civilization. The intelligent men, the Brahmanas, as exemplified by Kardama Muni, were engaged in advancing the spiritual cause. The Kshatriyas, like Emperor Swayambhu, used to rule the country and ensure that all facilities for spiritual realization were nicely provided. It is the duty of the king to travel all over the country and see that everything is in order. Indian civilization, on the basis of the 4 varnas and asramas, deteriorated because of her dependency on foreigners or those who did not follow the civilization of Varnashrama. Thus, the Varnashrama system has now been degraded into the caste system. The institution of 4 Varnas and 4 ashramas is confirmed herewith to be Bhagavat Rachita, which means designed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, this is also confirmed, Chaturvanyam Maya Srishtam. The Lord says that the institution of 4 Varnas and 4 ashramas is created by me. Anything created by the Lord cannot be closed or covered. The divisions of varnas and ashramas will continue to exist either in their original form or in degraded form. But because they are created by the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they cannot be extinguished. They are like the sun, a creation of God, and therefore will remain, either covered by clouds or in a clear sky. The sun will continue to exist. Similarly, when the Varnashrama system becomes degraded, it appears as a hereditary caste system. But in every society, there is an intelligent class of men, a martial class, a mercantile class, and a laborer class. When they are regulated for cooperation among the communities according to the Vedic principles, then there is peace and spiritual advancement. But when there is hatred and malpractice and mutual mistrust in the caste system, the whole system becomes degraded. And as stated herein, it creates a deplorable state. Deplorable means horrible. At the present moment, the entire world is in this deplorable condition because of giving rights to so many interests. This is due to the degradation of the forecasts of varnas and ashram. Okay, so this is a very big statement made by Prabhupada. Maybe we should go over this carefully because this is talking about what's happening today in India and around the world. So there are such things called social and spiritual orders. You have four, let's say, social orders and four spiritual orders. So Prabhupada says, it is the duty of a responsible king to protect the social and spiritual orders in human society. The spiritual orders are divided into four ashramas: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. And the social orders, according to work and qualification, are made up of brahmanas and kshatriyas, vaishyas, and sudras. These social orders, according to different grades of work and qualification, are described in Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, for want of proper protection by responsible kings, the system of social and spiritual orders has now become hereditary caste system. But that is not the actual system. Okay, so that means that one's position in these social and spiritual orders are not determined by birth. It's determined by work and what do we call merit? It's a meritorious system. It's not based on birth. But today, it's unfortunately based on birth and not necessarily merit. And then it says, for want of proper protection by responsible kings, the system of social and spiritual orders has now become hereditary caste system. But this is not the actual system. Human society means that society which is making progress towards spiritual realization. The most advanced human society was known as Arya. Arya refers to those who are advancing. So the question is, which society is advancing? Good question. Advancement does not mean creating material necessities unnecessarily, and thus wasting human energy in aggravation over so-called material comforts. Yeah. So what is Prabhupada talking about there? Well, he gives the example in other purports, and he says like lipstick. He said, this is nonsense, lipstick. and other things like that, all kinds of things that women use to look more beautiful. There should be natural beauty, not this artificial beauty or makeup, as they say. So whenever there's a Hindu wedding, all the ladies get made up. Is that right or wrong?
Christian wedding.
Okay, yeah, even Christian wedding. So they hire these hairdressers and they hire these cosmetic, uh, experts, and they get all, fixed up for the wedding with different kinds of unguents and different types of things to make them look more pretty. So the question is asked here, which society is advancing? Advancement does not mean creating material necessities unnecessarily, and thus wasting human energy in aggravation over so-called material comforts. The real advancement is advancement towards spiritual realization, and the community which acted toward this end was known as the Aryan civilization. Yeah, so the United States is considered to be a very progressive country because it has tremendous amount of manufacturing of mostly unnecessary things like lipstick and different types of unguents for making a person look more beautiful than they actually are. And actually, it's not really being more beautiful. It's looking more, let's say, artificial. Nothing can replace natural beauty, and that means that someone is not engaging in illicit activities and is engaging in spiritual activities, and they have a spiritual luster and health, and they don't need lipstick and other types of artificial things to make themselves look more beautiful. Okay, so Prabhupada says human society means that society which is making progress towards spiritual realization. The most advanced human society was known as Arya. Arya refers to those who are advanced. So the question is, which society is advancing? Advancement does not mean creating material necessity unnecessarily, and thus wasting human energy in aggravation over so-called material comforts. Real advancement is advancement toward spiritual realization, and the community which acted toward this end was known as the Aryan civilization. The intelligent men, the Brahmanas, as exemplified by Kardama Muni, were engaged in advancing the spiritual cause, and Kshatriyas, like Emperor Swayambhuva, used to rule the country and ensure that all facilities for spiritual realization were nicely provided. It is the duty of the king to travel all over the country and see that everything is in order. Indian civilization, on the basis of the four varnas and ashrams, deteriorated because of her dependency on foreigners or those who did not follow the civilization of varnashrama. That's a big statement Prabhupada is making. Thus, the varnashram system has now been degraded into the caste system. So what is the caste system? It is based on uh, birth and not based on qualification. So if you're born in a family of brahmanas, then even though you're not qualified as a brahmana, still you call yourself a brahmana. So one time I was at this, we were asked to come and do kirtan in this party that was taking place of mostly Hindus. And while we were there, after we finished chanting, before we left, this one man wanted to talk to me. So we didn't want to stay there because they had, like champagne and other types of liquors and things like that, so it wasn't a very nice place. But this one man stopped me and he said that he was a Brahmana. And to prove it, he went like this, he put his hand in his chest and came out with a 2 paisa Brahmana string. And that's really, so it is, a 2 paisa or 5 paisa. Anybody can get that, right? And he had champagne glass in his hand. And he said he was a Brahmin, and to prove it, he went like this, he went like this, pulled out his string. So this is what's happening in India. You have no longer any genuine. Well, there are some genuine Brahmanas, but most of them are not genuine at all. And they're more interested in doing pujas to make money to get their kids married than in actually being genuine Brahmanas. And that's why it says here that it is the duty of a responsible king to protect the social and spiritual orders in human society. So the spiritual orders are divided into 4 ashramas: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. And the social orders, according to work and qualification, are made up of the brahmanas, the kshatriyas, the vaishyas, and the sudras. So everything is based on qualification. It's not based on birth. But today, in most places, it's based on birth. So if you're born into a Brahmana family, you're considered to be a Brahmana. But that's not true. You have to be trained properly. Just because you're born in that family doesn't mean anything. I remember even many, many years ago, a long, long time ago, there was, when I was not in Krishna consciousness at that time, so I was going to church regularly every Sunday. And there was the head priest, and he had a son. And the son of the priest was a real nonsense person. But he was considered to be the son of the head priest. So he didn't deserve any respect because he was always doing nonsense things. But yet he was known as the son of the priest. We had to, give him some respect. But he didn't deserve the respect. He was a very low class kid. So this is going on, this so-called hereditary system of Brahmanas. So just because you're born in a Brahmana family, it doesn't mean that you're a Brahmana. And Brahmana is by their actions, not by their birth. But this is going on in India, even today. Even, a son was born in a family and of Brahmanas, but the son becomes a non-Brahmana by behavior and work. So many sons of Brahmanas today leave India, go to the United States, and become an IT. And they consider themselves Brahmanas, but they're not really Brahmanas because Brahmana, first of all, never works for somebody. They're independent. So all these sons of the Brahmanas, they're all working for, Microsoft or this company or that company, that means right away you're not a Brahmana. You can't. Why? Because you can't tell the truth when you work for someone. You have to be independent. And you can't be spending the major part of your time trying to make money. And the Brahmanas, they spend the major part of their time studying the scriptures and helping other people to make spiritual advancement. So today, the whole system is deteriorating and broken in many ways. Okay, so see, this is the problem, the allure of making money and the allure of studying in very prestigious universities, like, people want to go to Harvard or other big universities in the United States and get a degree and spend like 4 or 8 years to get these degrees and then start working like a Sudra. That's what's happening. They're not Brahmanas anymore. They're just working at like Sudras. And oftentimes, as the IT people, they end up uh, uh, advancing illicit. It's like sometimes they might work for a company that kills cows. Sometimes they might work in a company that makes guns and ammunition and things like that. Sometimes they work in companies that are the way their business is pornography, or sometimes they work in other companies. So you see, they're no longer Brahmanas. They've become basically lower than Sudras. Sudra is also part of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. They follow rules and regulations also. So now these young kids of Brahmanas are becoming lower than Sudras. Right. So the system is broken, unfortunately. So you don't find any genuine Brahmanas. Like just like this person named what's his name? Anyway, he was working. He was IT, very educated. He gave it all up and took up being a real Brahmana. Right? Now, Brahmanas generally have a a vow of poverty. Mm-hmm. And even though they may make a lot of money because they're getting a lot of, let's say, dakshin, they give most of it away to needy people or to people who deserve it. And they live a very simple life. And their main point is helping others become Krishna conscious by performing ceremonies or preaching and so forth. But even when they preach, do ceremonies, whatever money they get, okay, they keep a little bit of it for their simple lifestyle, and they also give in charity to needy people that are who are deserving, or they are qualified to be given charity. There are some people that are not qualified to be given charity to, because if they take that money and then buy liquor and engage in illicit activities, then whoever gave the money is going to have 1/6 of the karmic reaction. So normally, dakshin should only be given to worthy people who are living a spiritual life. If you give it to an unworthy person, then you get some of their karma. So you have to be careful who you give your money to. I mean, there's so many beggars. As soon as you get off your airplane and get out of the air, uh, come out to try and get a taxi or something. Immediately, there's all these beggars.
Yeah.
Right. And little kids and guys with don't have arms or legs. There's so many beggars outside of the airport, and like who should you give it money to? Well, it depends on what they're going to do with the money. So if they're going to buy liquor and things like that, so the best thing is whenever you go to India and your airplane lands in India in the airport, as soon as you walk out of the airport, and I don't know, this was before, maybe they've changed it. But as soon as you walk out, there's a whole bunch of beggars.
Yeah, now it got changed.
What?
Now it got changed.
It got changed?
Yeah.
Now city, we don't see it in the airport. But
Yeah.
as soon as you get out of the airport premises,
Ah,
and the very first signal, traffic
yeah,
signal,
traffic signal.
Oh,
will
okay.
be
Yeah.
Yeah.
the very first traffic.
So it changed a little bit, but it's the same thing is
So what
happening.
you are saying is now in railway stations and all same thing. Once you come out of the station,
What station?
train stations.
Oh, train station. Okay.
And bus station.
That's bus station. Wow, they graduated.
Yeah, airport only the surroundings, very near surrounding because there are a lot of cops and a lot of discipline.
Okay.
Security.
Security, that's the reason. Otherwise, out of the mind.
Right.
And
Okay.
the begging thing is a big racket.
Oh, of course. I mean,
It's
some little kids are born, right?
yeah.
Right away, they cut off an arm or a
Yeah.
leg so that the kid could be a professional beggar.
Mafia.
It's terrible.
So instead of money, can we give some fruits or something?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
And they belong to the
When I gave, I had some prasadam in the, for my flight, which was left over, and then the traffic signal, and some lady with a small baby was like knocking the
Window.
car window. So I thought I will give the prasadam. She blatantly refused. Okay, no, give me money.
but the genuine people they accept Maharaj. I have seen.
Prashadam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people ask for prashadam.
Yeah, but these people are
Here,
not.
one day when we were moving, I mean, when I went out, Maharaj, so we gave some oranges and all. They took some 2-3 people. They have taken.
But it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you should have when you go to India, you should have either a lot of small change
Yes.
or you should have a lot of prashadam.
Even the
Yeah, they buy if you have small change, they refuse
They
sometimes.
refuse, yes, yes.
You don't
Small
accept the
change.
small change. It's
yeah, so in my recent trip to Vrindavan,
Yeah.
right outside of MBT, we were boarding the taxi to go to Barsana.
Yeah.
So there was one lady who was begging. So my friend's mom, he gave like 2 rupee coin, and she gave it back to her.
Wow,
He said,
this is an insult.
"Yeah,
Yeah,
what do I get out
what can I do with 2 rupees?
of it?"
Yeah,
People are
well, they know that people coming from the United States or foreign countries, they have money. Yeah, and there's a big difference between the rupee and the dollar.
Yeah.
So you for $1, you're getting what
80 rupees.
80 rupees, right? So they know that,
Yeah.
and they say, and you're only giving me 1 rupee, you can give easily 50 rupees or 100 rupees.
Yeah, 100 rupees is what they expect.
Oh,
50, 100, 50.
Oh,
that's the range.
That's the range.
oh my God.
Times have changed. One time I was in Vrindavan, and this older lady came up to me, and she didn't speak English. I didn't speak Hindi, of course. But she was an older lady, and she looked like a very nice person, and she wanted to get mango, right? And I was trying to give her, I didn't realize what she wanted, and But everything I was trying to offer her, she kept refusing. And then she pointed to the mangoes. And I understood, so then I bought her some mangoes. She was like a grandmother, that was poor. And she had come probably to Vrindavan to die. And she would just live by begging. Haribol. India is an interesting place. I mean, you find everything there. You find the good and the bad. Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, like I remember going to Vrindavan and there were prostitutes. There were people smoking marijuana. All kinds of things going on there. Not in the temples, but outside.
And liquor, Maharaj.
Yeah, and liquor now, yeah. Big time. I was surprised.
Even Tirupati also previously no liquor, nothing, meat was available, Maharaj. Now they have started everything.
Really?
In
Yeah.
the hills.
Not on the hills, in the down.
Wow. Sad, very sad. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost finished. So, um, okay, so here it says these social orders, brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, and Sudras, according to different grades of work and qualification, are described in Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, for want of proper protection by responsible kings, the system of social and spiritual orders has now become a hereditary caste system. But this is not the actual system. Human society means that society which is making progress towards spiritual realization. The most advanced human society was known as Arya. Arya refers to those who are advancing. So the question is, which society is advancing? Advancement does not mean creating material necessities unnecessarily, and thus wasting human energy in aggravation over so-called material comforts. So, what were those unnecessary necessities, right? Like lipstick and mascara and all things like that. And men also, men also now, uh, they get the same thing that women get, but it's made for men, like mascara and like different unguents and things like that people use to look younger than they actually are. So before it was only women doing that. Now it's men also. They put on makeup. They put on makeup. So here Prabhupada says real advancement is attachment towards spiritual realization. And the community which acted toward this end was known as the Aryan civilization. The intelligent men, the Brahmanas, as exemplified by Kardama Muni, were engaged in advancing the spiritual cause, and Kshatriyas, like Emperor Swayambhuva, used to rule the country and ensure that all facilities for spiritual realization were nicely provided. It is the duty of the king to travel all over the country and see that everything is in order. Indian civilization, on the basis of the four varnas and ashrams, deteriorated because of her, and he's referring to India as her, right? Because of her dependency on foreigners or those who did not follow the civilization of Varnashram. Yeah, like Nehru, he was a person, he didn't like anything Indian. He only liked things that were Western, right? Clothing, food, customs and everything. He was not really an Indian, although he looked born in India. he was always interested in British things. uh, and it says here, Indian civilization on the basis of the four varnas and ashramas deteriorated because of her, meaning India, her dependency on foreigners and those who did not follow the civilization of Varnashram. Thus, the Varnashram system has now been degraded into the caste system. Okay, so before in India, before there was IT and what do you call it, outsourcing, people could go to sleep, let's say 8 o'clock at night, wake up 3 o'clock in the morning. Now they in order to outsource, they can't chant Hare Krishna in the morning. They don't have time. They have to wake up early in order uh, to communicate with the Americans or the Europeans, and so they don't have time to chant or go to the temple in the morning anymore. They're almost working 24 hours a day nowadays. In other words, as soon as they finish as soon as they finish their work with the computer, they go to sleep underneath the computer because it's the competition is so vicious that they can't even eat properly or go home or bathe or anything. They're just working all the time so that they can compete with others. And now they're not just competing with Indians, they're also competing with people all over the world, right? The Chinese and all kinds of other people, they're competing in the same way with their computer. So this definitely has influenced Sanatana Dharma in India. Okay. And also, as Prabhupada says here, the system of social and spiritual orders has now become a hereditary caste system. Before, it was not based on whatever family you're born into. It was based on your merits. There was a merit system to determine what your caste was, or what your, let's say, what your caste was. But then it became hereditary. So even a low-class kid was considered a Brahmana because he was born in a Brahmana family. But previously it was based on merit and not on birth. So there was this one very poor boy. He went to a very saintly person, and he wanted to become his disciple. So the saintly person said, "Well, what is your caste?" And the boy said, "I don't know." Just go. He says, "So go home and ask your mother." So he goes home, asks his mother, and the mother, when he asks that question, she starts crying. "I don't know. I don't know who your father is." In other words, she was living like a prostitute. So the boy goes back, and then the saintly man, so the Brahmana said, "Okay, what's your caste?" He said, "Well, I don't know. My brother doesn't know." He said, "Okay, I accept you as my disciple." And the boy looks at him. "Well, how come you accept me?" Said, "You told the truth. That means you're a Brahmana." He could have lied, right? But he didn't lie. And then that means he's honest, so he's a Brahmana, or he can be trained as a Brahmana. Okay, so I think we're finished. Are there any questions? Unfortunately, we don't have responsible kings, whereas in previous times they were responsible kings. they dealt with their followers like a father. Now they don't necessarily act like a father. They act like a merchant. You and that means that the whole system is breaking down. But when you have a leader who acts like a father and is interested in all the public that he's dealing with, and not being greedy and not being mean and so forth, then the people feel happy. But when they see that the so-called spiritual leader or the kids of the spiritual leader are only interested in money and nonsense and driving expensive cars and so forth, it breaks the whole system and deteriorates because it's not meritorious anymore. It's based on birth, not on merit. So the most advanced human society was known as Arya. Arya refers to those who are advanced. So the question is, which society is advancing? Advancement does not mean creating material necessities unnecessarily, and thus wasting human energy in aggravation over so-called material comforts. Real advancement is advancement towards spiritual realization, and the community which acted toward this end was known as Aryan civilization. Hare Krishna. So that's our lesson today. All glories to Prabhupada. So you have even Christian organizations. Oftentimes, their kids have to go and take a sabbatical from college and spend 2 years doing charitable work. And they can go to any country in the world, not necessarily stay, at their home. And they usually have to go far away from their home, to foreign countries, and do welfare work for the people. Yeah. It's a good system. It's good training for the kids also.